Spellbook, the archetype that is just the natural enemy of every single Yu-Gi-Oh player, because it contains the word book in the name. So Konami just released a brand new Spellbook structure deck straight into Master Duel, which is brilliant, because I've always wanted to play Spellbook in Master Duel. It's just, it never really felt right to do so when the deck contains 3 mandatory ultra rares that you have to run, and the deck list, I'm gonna be honest, it's definitely not worth the ultra rares. But now Konami has turned into a structure deck, it just became a lot more affordable, and therefore a lot more worthwhile in investing into, as although it's definitely not the strongest deck list out there, it's a hell of a lot of fun to play. So here's today's deck list. Now just a reminder before I go through the deck list, if you're enjoying today's video and want to see more content just like this in the future, especially if you're a returning viewer, as apparently only about 50% of the people that watch this are even subscribed to the channel, yet nearly all of you are returning viewers who actually seen my content before. So if you find yourself come back to the channel and want to see more content just like this in the future, remember to leave a like on the video and consider subscribing to the channel. Alright, let's get into today's deck list. So this deck list is a very typical Spellbook pairing of running Spellbook in combination with Dogmatika, because in my opinion, Spellbook by themselves as a pure deck is basically just not playable and very, very garbage. But when combined with something else, whether that be Invoked, or in this case Dogmatika, you get a very, very competent deck. And running basically any other Spellcaster archetype with Spellbook is an insane amount of synergy for it, basically because a lot of your Spellbook style cards don't necessarily need in-art type Spellbooks, they just need Spellcasters on the field, whether that be the Link monster needing 2 Spellcaster type monsters, or cards like Fate just requiring a Spellcaster type monster on the field to activate. So this deck's goal isn't to create some insane end board of 15 negates and one giant boss monster that's just immune to everything. It doesn't do anything like that. The entire point of this deck list is generally just to outvalue your opponent via having just insane draw power, insane consistency on searches, and just ending on a nice board that ends on a nice lock and has plenty of banishing effects and a couple of negate effects to just make sure your opponent can't play the game all that much. So this deck's normal summon is generally going to be your blue boy. This card has a very simple effect. When normal summoned, add a Spellbook card from your deck to your hand, which will generally be your Spellbook of Secrets, which also has a very simple effect. Activate this card to add a Spellbook card from your deck to your hand, which actually also includes your Magician of Prophecy, so keep that in mind. If you don't open your Secrets, or you don't open your Prophecy, you can use Secrets to search for him. Then, because you activate this card to search for a card, you will generally search for your Master. This card, if you control a Spellcaster type monster, you can reveal one other Spellbook in hand to then copy the effect of a Spellbook card in the graveyard, which will generally be copying the Secrets to then search a card in the deck. Now this may seem kind of pointless. Why would you activate a card that searches for a card that's then going to search again for the same effect? Why wouldn't you just search with this card? Well, that's because you want to get as many Spellbook cards in the graveyard as possible for when you activate your Spellbook of Fate. This card, if you control a Spellcaster type monster, can banish up to 3 Spellbook spell cards from your graveyard to apply an effect, depending on how many you banished. 1 card banished. Return 1 set spell and trap card on the field to your hand. 2. Change 1 monster on the field to defense position, or face up attack position. 3. Banish 1 card your opponent controls. So at worst, you're returning one of your opponent's back row to hand, which is already a pretty decent effect at getting rid of some annoying back row. At kind of middle ground, you can just get a Book of Moon effect, which is a very strong effect. Book of Moon is a really good card, so just target one of your opponent's monsters, put it face down, all of a sudden, if it had some kind of annoying floodgate style effect, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Or at best, you just 3, banish any card your opponent controls, and keep in mind it's a non-target banish, so a very powerful effect. We also have a couple of other Spellbook cards, such as Eternity, which targets one of your banished Spellbooks and adds it to your hand, or your Knowledge, which sends to the graveyard a Spellcaster monster you control or a Spellbook from your hand to draw 2 cards, or a card you're going to be using fairly often, your Spellbook of Life, which can banish a Spellcaster type monster from your graveyard to reveal a Spellbook in hand and special summon a Spellcaster from your graveyard, which is a very decent way to get a hold of your Maximus. Now I say that because we're also running your Magician Souls, which is a card that special summons itself by sending a level 6 or higher spellcaster monster from your deck to the graveyard. So you special summon this card out, which can then be used as resources to go into your Crowley, or use this effect to then draw 2 cards, or simply just use it to send this card to the graveyard, because then you can revive it with your Spellbook of Life. And when this card's on the field, it has a pretty nasty effect of sending 2 extra deck monsters from your opponent's deck and from your deck straight to the graveyard. Meaning you can send copies of your Apkallone, I have no idea how to pronounce this, Apkallone? Whatever, you send this card to the graveyard, it can then search out a Schism, and then during your opponent's turn, you can special summon out Shaddoll Winda to the board, which is a really nasty card that stops your opponent being able to special summon basically more than 1 monster a turn. A really strong card that also cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, so a nicer card that's really hard for your opponent to even out. On top of that, you can send cards like your Virtous, or I don't pronounce that either. This card to the graveyard, which then destroys a card your opponent controls. You can even send Toad to the graveyard, which then adds a water monster such as your Spellbook of Prophecy from your graveyard back to your hand. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the deck list portion of the video. The rest of the video is going to be showing off the 2 starter combos this deck list has, and then 2 replays of just some standard replays of me playing this in actual games. And without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, let's get to the combos. So today's deck list isn't exactly a combo deck, so there isn't exactly that many combos to show you guys, but this deck does have 2 main starters which I'll show you right now. So the first combo basically just needs a copy of Magician's Souls in combination with your Blue Boy, which we'll search for with Secrets right now. So adding our Prophecy to hand. It doesn't particularly matter if you use your Secrets to search for your Prophecy or not, because your Secrets gets copied in the graveyard anyway later on, so it doesn't particularly matter if you open it or if you don't. Either way, you just need this card in hand in combination with your Souls. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is activate our Souls. Souls is going to special summon itself and send a Maximus to the graveyard, which is important because we need to summon that later. Then we can activate the effect of Magician's Souls if we like, to discard 2 cards in hand, to then draw 2 cards. Don't have to do that, it's just completely optional depending on what hand you've got. That doesn't even have to have any effect on the actual combo itself, so you can do that if you like. Alright, now we're going to normal summon our Prophecy, which would normally search for our Secrets, but because we already used Secrets earlier on, we're just going to search for a copy of Master instead, which can copy the Secrets. Alright, now I'm going to link summon into my Crowley. Crowley is going to give me 3 cards, or a choice of 3 cards. So I want a copy of Life, a copy of Knowledge, and a copy of... Normally, you'd use a copy of Life, a copy of Knowledge, and a copy of Master, but we already have Master in hand this time, so I'm going to put Fate as well. And I know I already have a Knowledge in hand, but just pretend that's not there. I'm just trying to show what the general combo would be. In this case, added Fate. Alright, so now we're going to activate our copy of Master to copy the card that we put in graveyard earlier. Showing a card to our opponent. Copying the Secrets. This then gives a search for the card that special summons from the graveyard, so our Spellbook of Life. Now we can activate our Spellbook of Life. This will banish a copy of Souls from graveyard. Then add your Spellbook of Knowledge to hand. Oh, sorry, we're gonna reveal a card, sorry. Special summoning out Maximus. Alright, then we activate Maximus' effect. This will send 2 cards from the extra deck to the graveyard. In this case, it's going to be a copy of Apkallone. I have no idea how to pronounce that. That card in combination with your Titan. This will give you a search from your Apkallone, whatever the hell this is, to search for your trap card, Schism. And also sending a card back to the deck. Doesn't really matter. And setting our Schism, and then passing the turn. Oh, sorry, we activate a copy of Knowledge, because we happen to get a copy of it. On our copy of Life, that's on the field, to draw 2 cards. And then we can end the turn. Then during the end phase, our Titan will be able to get a hold of your Ecclesia, special summon it to the field. And Ecclesia will search for your other hand trap. Fleurdelis, what is called him? Knight. Alright. From here, whenever my opponent does anything annoying, I'm going to activate my copy of Schism. Using the 2 cards that we put in the graveyard earlier to special summon out Shaddoll Winda. Which I'm sure you guys are all aware of what this card does by now. Basically, it makes it so both players can only special summon 1 time a turn, making it really hard for my opponent to play here. And if my opponent ever summons a monster with a card effect, so wait for him to summon something. If he summons something, I can then activate my Dogmatika from hand to special summon itself to the field. To then negate the effect of one of my opponent's monsters. And that's basically it for the first combo. You end on a card that basically stops your opponent being able to special summon more than once. You get a hand trap from hand that gets to negate something, and you drew 4, or I have no idea how many cards I started with, but it drew a shit ton of extra cards, alright? So his deck list generally generates a shit ton of advantage just from a simple 2-card combo. Alright, on to the second combo. So the second combo needs a copy of Prophecy in combination with either Ecclesia or Maximus. Alright, so first thing you do is normal summon your Prophecy. Prophecy is then going to search for a copy of your Secrets, or if you want to use Secrets to search for your Prophecy, you'd search for Maximus or Knowledge. If you don't have another spellbook in hand, you wouldn't search for Master. And if you do have another spellbook in hand, you'd search for Master. Otherwise, you go straight for Knowledge. But in this case, we haven't used our Secrets yet, so we're going to search for our Secrets. Then using our Secrets, we can search for a copy of Master because we have another spellbook in hand. Activating our Master, then copy the card in Graveyard by showing the other spellbook to search for our copy of Knowledge. Now, the reason you want to put so many spellbooks in grave rather than searching straight for the Knowledge if you can is because if you get a hold of Fate, Fate needs spellbooks in grave to activate its effect to banish your opponent's stuff. So we're just filling up our graveyard just in case we draw into it later. Alright, now we have a monster on board, we can link summon into our Magistus monster. Alright, now we have a link monster on board, we can summon out our Ecclesia from hand. Summoning it straight to the field, activating its effect, and searching for Maximus. So if you already have Maximus in hand, you wouldn't have to do this step, it just wouldn't matter. Alright, now we activate our Knowledge's effect. Tributing our dude on board to draw 2 cards, and now because we have a link engraved, we can special summon our Maximus from hand by banishing the link. Maximus comes to the board. This card, like as we did the last combo, we'll be sending 2 cards from the extra deck. Exact same 2 cards as before. Our Titan and our weird fish looking thing, whatever it is. Is this even a fish? What is this thing? I don't know. Either way, moving on. Activating our weird card to search for our trap card. And putting a card back into the deck, doesn't matter. Sending our card, and that is basically your end board, same as before. Because then our Titan's going to go off. This will then give us a copy of our hand trap, being our Dogmatika card, or if we hadn't special summoned our Ecclesia, we could have summoned our Ecclesia and searched for a card, same as before. But in this case, we've already used our Ecclesia, so we're going to add the hand trap to hand. And pass the turn. So exact same as before. Now I can activate my copy of Schism. Use the 2 cards we put in the graveyard to summon out Winda. By sending these 2. So now my opponent's limited to only 1 special summon a turn. And we have access to our special summon from hand now. To negate our opponent's monster's effects, because this card is rather annoying. So we're going to negate this card, and that's basically your end board. Alright, so today I have 2 replays to show you, both of which are fairly basic, nothing too extreme, but basically just showed off basically everything this deck can do. I said basically way too many times in that sentence. Alright, let's get into the actual replay. Alright, so first one I think is me going first, and the second one is me going second. Alright, the second one I did draw Maxx, I'm going to omit, so take that as you will. Alright, so activating my Prophecy, searching for my Secrets. Same combo you would have seen in my combo part of the video. Revealing this, searching for my Knowledge. Link summoning, so then we have a card to tribute with the Knowledge. We have Ecclesia in hand, so we can special summon that due to having the link on board. Searching for our Maximus, drawing 2 by tributing the link. Banishing the dude, special summoning the Maximus, sending 2 from extra deck. Getting a hold of a Schism. And because we already had 2 Ash Blossom, get rid of an Ash Blossom. Then end phase, can be adding a Knights to hand and passing it over. So now we have a pretty nice board of once again making it so our opponent can only special summon 1 time, making it so we have an Ash Blossom in hand, which is already pretty good, and we have a Spellbook of Fate, which we got lucky and drew, which is great. you will generally, it's very rare you don't actually have a Spellbook of Fate on turn 1, just because of how much draw and value this deck generally generates. Especially considering if you happen to draw some of your combo pieces anyway, you can just use your searches for the Fate instead of searching for some of your other cards. So, if you do get a Fate, this deck becomes really good. Alright, he's going to activate his Pot of Desires. We're going to Ash Blossom that, of course. He gets hold of this card. I'm going to spend my Fate now to get rid of it, as I don't want him to target my Schism, because I kind of want this card to remain on the field in future turns, so I'm going to banish this right now. I probably pre-jacked this a little bit. I could have waited for him to target one of my cards. I don't think it really matters too much. He's now going to use this to special summon out a card. In response, I'm going to use my Schism, summoning out my Winda. Again, this is probably a bit too too early to do this. I probably should have waited for his monster to be summoned first. I don't really know why I summoned this early. It didn't really matter in the end, so... So now he can't actually do any special summoning right now, so he has to go into battle phase if he wants to try to get rid of this. But before he's able to use its effect to banish a card on the field, I'm going to summon my Knight from hand to negate it. So now, at the very least, because I know you can beat over this card and then you can special summon again, but at the very least, he has to go to battle phase first, and I know I won't die this turn, so I'll have follow-up plays for following turns. So pretty decent setup. He's already been cucked pretty hard, so he can't really do a whole lot. This card's been negated, so I can't banish any of my stuff, which is probably what he wanted to do. He's going to instant fusion into a Millenniumized Restrict, which doesn't really do anything when I've already used all my stuff, and it destroys itself at the end of the turn anyway, so... Yeah, nothing too special about this replay, just kind of outvalued my opponent for the most part. And that Ash Blossom was pretty dirty, so... But yeah, this deck list does run a lot of hand traps and can afford to run a lot of hand traps. And due to the amount of draw this deck list does, on top of being able to get Fate pretty commonly, you also draw hand traps pretty commonly, which is mostly where this deck's strength comes from. Alright, so this deck list is going to showcase how good Secret Village is, which is really good. It's also a pretty funny replay because it's like a pseudo mirror match, where it's also against the deck playing all the Shaddoll stuff, so it's kind of scary activating Maximus' effect versus this stuff, as he can send his stuff to the graveyard, but we did it anyway, so... Searching his Invocation, using his Shaddoll Fusion. I activated Maxx, so thankfully I think that scared him off of doing too many summons here, so he's just going to end on Winda and pass. I feel like he should have just done one more summon and gone into the negating card too. It's only one more draw for me. It was kind of weird for him to just leave it on just this card. Did he even add the... He didn't even add Alistair back to hand, so he's not really... Yeah, this card's kind of, yeah, out in the open. Either way. Alright, so now activate my Prophecy, searching for my Fate. Gonna use my Secrets, searching for my Life. Activate my Master, revealing Fate, adding this card to hand. Now, a cool thing about Fate is that you don't actually have to use its changer, you don't have to use its banishing effect, because it actually has other effects. Its first one, where you just banish one card, can return a set, spell, and trap card to hand, and its second one can actually turn a monster face down. So just with 2 cards in graveyard, I can already flip this face down and get rid of its annoying summon limitations. In all honesty, I probably could have waited on this and maybe used one of these cards, but either way. Alright, so now Maximus, better signing my dude. Yeah, so I could have just summoned my my Start Magician dude there, discard a card from hand to draw a card, and that would have given me enough resources to banish this instead, but either way. Just a small misplay. I get to show off the second version of Fate here, because a lot of people don't even know Fate can do that, because they just know it's a banishing card. Alright, so I go into my Spellbook of Life, banishing the dude, special summoning out Maximus, sending 2 from the extra deck, which also lets my opponent do the same thing, which is a little bit scary. Gonna pop his face down. Which now give me a copy of my Schism for Winda next turn. Activating my Knowledge to draw 2, which ends on a, once again, ends on Impermanence, gonna end on a Schism, and we have enough, we draw a Fate as well, so. Can activate my Eternity, add one of my Spellbooks back to hand, and end the turn with a Secret Village on the board, which for the people that don't know, this card basically, if my opponent doesn't have a Spellcaster monster, but I have a Spellcaster monster, my opponent can't activate any spell cards, and likewise, so My opponent, he hasn't got a Alistair because it's currently in the graveyard, so unless he normal summons that Alistair, he can't actually use any copies of the spell cards he's got in hand. And if he does summon an Alistair, or summon some kind of spellcaster monster, I can banish it with Fate anyway, so he can't actually use any of his spell cards right now, which is really good because it means all this back row I've got basically is immune to all the generic, lightning storms, MSTs, all that kind of stuff. I'm basically immune to it, and my opponent can activate things like, his invocations, his Shaddoll fusions, any kind of spell card he has in the deck, he can't actually use. So I'm pretty immune to most things right now. I'm feeling very, very comfortable. I was actually wondering whether I should run 3 copies of this in the deck, because it's a very powerful card. It can basically win you games going first a lot of the time. Especially if he has a deck that isn't a spellcaster deck. And yeah, opponent couldn't really do anything from here, so he just concedes. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the replays. Hope you guys enjoyed them. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob? Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis. Oh.